Hello, my name is Rocco Guevara. I am a sophomore at McMurry University. My project is called MoRocco, a secure exam operating system for academic integrity. And I was interested in it because I wanted experience with research in computer science. The goal is to build a secure operating system for controlled academic testing. So let's go through this demonstration video of MoRocco first, and then after that we'll go and look at an example of the exam package that would be used within the MoRocco operating system. So first, I'm not going to go through this part in depth, but you're first going to set up an Alpine virtual machine using the QEMU emulator. So you're going to download an Alpine isolation file from somewhere on the World Wide Web, the internet, and then you will install the QEMU emulator on your computer, and then you will create a QCOW2 disk space for your Alpine. You will set up the Alpine virtual machine, and then you will run this command to launch the Alpine virtual machine isolation file, and then you'll have your virtual machine. Set that up, and then you can start installing softwares onto your Alpine virtual machine after it is set up. So you have to add your repository link, and then you can install these packages onto your Alpine virtual machine, onto your saved disk space for your Alpine virtual machine. You can install these packages to create the MoRocco operating system. So you have your micro, which is basically just going to allow you to edit text within the operating system. You have your sudo, which is going to allow you to really separate the student part of the operating system from the administrator. You have the no cache OpenSSL tar, so that way you can clear cache and make sure that there's not, the operating system is cleared, whenever you're running it. Whenever the student's running it, there's no kind of cache on there. The OpenJDK 17, so that way the disk space can read the code used to make the MoRocco operating system, so that way it can function within the virtual machine. And then you have the bash, so that way you can execute some more administrative things within. You can run the administrative side of the MoRocco virtual machine. And then you're going to configure the SSH key. You're going to permit the root login, and then you're going to set up password authentication. And then you're going to restart the Alpine virtual machine, so that way you can run it from the saved disk space. And then you're going to open a new terminal within the saved disk space, so that way you can actually create the student side of it and the administrative. And you can set that up. And then you're going to prepare the student account, and then you're going to complete that. And then you're going to get to these commands, which are very important to understanding the Alpine virtual machine. Once you have the student part set up, you're going to touch the student side of it with the commands log, so that way you can set up the connection between the student side of the virtual machine and the commands log. And then you're going to allow the virtual machine to automatically log all the students' commands into the commands log. So anything they enter into there will be automatically put into the commands log. So that way you can track what exactly they're typing into there. and it will have a timestamp for like whenever they type something, or yeah, so then you're going to be able to log everything the student says, and it's going to trap every single command they say into a timestamp, who they are, and then what the command actually was. And then from there, after you complete all these steps to other steps to set it up, you're going to have the Alpine machine ready to go. So then you're going to be able to set up the encryption for it. And you're going to be able to keep the student from accessing the logs file and keep them from escaping the student side of the operating system. And then, yeah, then you're going to set up the auto scripts to automatically start the Alpine virtual machine, and then to shut down the Alpine virtual machine from the student side of it, and then from like the more commands log side of it. So that way the Alpine virtual machine will shut down, and it will stop. Like the whole MoRocco operating system will also stop at the same time. So Micro will end the session for the student, and then the CH mod will end the session for the MoRocco. The MoRocco logs, the MoRocco files, it's going to completely shut it down and just turn it off automatically. And so those are most of the important things I want to hit. And then here, there is the demonstration of actually running the MoRocco operating system. You can just open it right here and boot it, and you can log in, and now you are in. You can ls, see the exam package. You can cd to open some of the files, and then you can ls again to look at them, what the files are. And then you can go in and start editing the files. And then once you are complete with it, you can sudo power off to turn it off as a student, and that will just close the operating system. And then the MoRocco will encrypt the exam package that's completed, and it will shut down the operating system, and then save the completed exam package, so that way the administrator can look at it they can look at the logs, they can look at the workspace folder, which we'll get into in a second, and the grader folder to review the students' work and their results. And then the instructor will decrypt the exam so they can review it. And yeah, there you go. That is basically how MoRocco works. Some of the key parts of the setup, and then how to actually boot into it as a student, and then how to look at their work as an instructor. It's basically the key things I want to hit on from the demonstration. Now we're going to go into the exam package. Now I'm going to explain the exam package that we will be feeding into the MoRocco operating system. First, I want to talk about the instructions. It displays the general instructions of an exam. And just basically how to work, it explains some of the things that the MoRocco operating system can do. It explains some of its capabilities. You know, you can't rename files. Your work must be completed before the timer ends, and if not, the workspace will freeze it automatically. The policies will show just some of the overall, it will give the Alpine virtual machine just some basic, policies to abide by. So it'll help that out with handling the exam packages. The questions will be for the student to look at. It'll just have the instructions and then some questions here, and then it will display the end of the examination right there. Message at the very bottom. And then the metadata is also for the MoRocco operating system. It'll just give it, the amount of time the exam is, what the exam name is, what the compiler is for the exam, the timestamp for the beginning of the exam, just things like that. And then the test cases will be, those will be the answers to the exam. Or, well, for us, those are just examples for like the answers, right? The student are going to we're comparing these test case answers to what hypothetically the student's answers would be within the workspace. So, and that's how we would test the auto grading system. But obviously, in this would not be allowed for student access. The student would not be allowed to see the test case during the exam. They wouldn't be allowed to see the test case at all. And then the starter code that's the first thing the student should look at after looking at the instructions, the policies, and the questions during the exam. It will just give them a code to start out with. Just give them, something to build off of for the exam, so they're not just completely lost. And then the workspace will be where they are working on the exam. That will be where they work on the code, and then, based on what the questions are and the starter code, they're going to print some kind of answers that we can grade and compare to the test cases. So that's what all of these files are for. And then the auto grader, that's going to be something for the student to run after they have completed putting in all their code and their answers within the exam package. And then the logs are going to be where the auto grader produces the results. It's going to compare the answers produced within the workspace section to the answers within the test case section, and then give a complete.txt file, a grade log, and then just to see if the program output is compared to the test case, does the question pass or does it fail? And then the logs are going to be where the student will run the auto grader, and then the results will be produced within the logs folder. The complete.txt, that's going to be where the student's answers are outputted from the workspace. It's going to be produced in the complete.txt section. And then the log for the grade log is going to be where the output of the program in the complete.txt, it's going to be placed within here. And then based on that, compared to the test cases, is the question a pass or is it a fail? And then the auto grader will stop running after it's gone through the output of the program, after it stops reading all those lines produced in the program output. And then that is basically everything you need to know about the exam package. Thank you for watching this video, watching this presentation of the MoRocco operating system, and I appreciate your time.